famous people who passed away in 1776. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Jane Randolph Jefferson. She was born in February 1720 and she died in March 1776. Her age was 56 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was apoplexy. She was the mother of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States. Her influence shaped Jefferson's early education and values, leaving a lasting legacy through her children. Samuel Watt. He was born in May 1725 and he died in March 1776. His age was 50 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was smallpox. He was an American farmer, politician, Rhode Island Supreme Court Justice, Governor of the colony of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations, and delegate to the Continental Congress, where he signed the Continental Association. John Thomas. He was born in 1724 and he died in June 1776. His age was 51 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was smallpox. He was an American medical doctor and soldier from Massachusetts who became a major general in the Continental Army. He was a leader during the siege of Boston. Thomas briefly commanded the withdrawal from Canada after the unsuccessful invasion by the Continental Army. He died from smallpox during the retreat. James Fry. He was born in January 1710 and he died in January 1776. His age was 65 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was wounds from the Battle of Bunker Hill. He was an American soldier who served in the Revolutionary War. He played an instrumental role in early battles, exemplifying the patriot cause through his leadership. Edward Cornwallis. He was born in March 1713 and he died in January 1776. His age was 62 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British military officer and colonial administrator. He is best remembered for founding Halifax, which played a key role in British settlement in Canada. James Gabriel Montresor. He was born in November 1704 and he died in January 1776. His age was 71 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a skilled British engineer known for his military fortifications in North America. His contributions were pivotal during colonial conflicts. John Harrison. He was born in March 1693 and he died in March 1776. His age was 82 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an English carpenter and clockmaker who invented marine chronometer, a long sought-after device for solving the problem of how to calculate longitude while at sea. Benjamin Huntsman. He was born in June 1704 and he died in June 1776. His age was 72 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British inventor who revolutionized steel making with the development of cubical steel. His invention significantly advanced industrial and manufacturing process. Johann Philip Murray. He was born in July 1726 and he died in January 1776. His age was 49 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a German historian who was mainly interested in early Nordic studies and the relations between England and Scandinavia. Jacques de Romas. He was born in October 1713 and he died in January 1776. His age was 62 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a French physicist known for his work on electricity. His experiments paralleled those of Benjamin Franklin, contributing to the early understanding of electrical phenomena. Jeremiah Markland. He was born in October 1693 and he died in July 1776. His age was 82 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a respected British scholar known for his critical work on classical literature. His contributions enriched the study of ancient texts and philology. Elizabeth Catherine Boivin. She was born in 1704 and she died in February 1776. Her age was 72 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. She was a widow of François Boivin and Jean-Christophe Ballard's daughter. She was an 18th century French music publisher in Paris. Her mark was found on many scores published and sold in Paris until 1753, when she sold her business to Marc Bayard, another music publisher. Lady Anne Munson. She was born in 1726 and she died in February 1776. Her age was 50 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. She was a British botanist who conducted pioneering studies of South Asian plants. Her passion for botany made her a distinguished figure in early scientific explorations. Johann Georg Ziesenis. He was born in 1716 and he died in March 1776. His age was 60 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a German painter, famed for his portraits of European aristocracy. He also worked for the courts in Brunswick and Berlin, and his daughters, Maria and Margaretha, were also painters. He created around 260 portraits and other paintings and sketches in the course of his life, including ones of Crown Prince Frederick in 1767. Pierre Robert Le Corneille de Citaville. He was born in September 1693 and he died in March 1776. His age was 82 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a French magistrate and scholar, co-founder of the Academy of Rouen. He fostered intellectual discourse through his salons and literary societies. John Bowes, 9th Earl of Strathmore and Kinghorn. He was born in July 1737 and he died in March 1776. His age was 38 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was tuberculosis. He was a Scottish nobleman and peer. He was the 9th Earl of Strathmore and Kinghorn and one of the maternal ancestors of King Charles III. He was dedicated to manage his family estates. He also contributed to the cultural life of Scotland. Johann Gotthelf Lindner. He was born in September 1729 and he died in March 1776. His age was 46 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a German theologian and writer known for his works that strengthened the Lutheran theology. His intellectual contributions were highly regarded within the Protestant Reformation tradition. Élie Catherine Ferrand. He was born in January 1718 and he died in March 1776. His age was 58 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a French literary critic and controversialist whose career focused on countering the influence of the philosophies of French Enlightenment, partly through his vehicle, the Année littéraire, thus fervent in recruiting young writers to counter the literary establishment became central to the movement, now called Counter-Enlightenment. Nicholas Salgren, he was born in March 1701 and he died in March 1776. His age was 74 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a Swedish philanthropist and merchant whose establishment of the Sahlgrenska Hospital in Gothenburg marked a milestone in Swedish health care. Elizabeth Scott, she was born in 1708 and she died in June 1776. Her age was 68 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. She was an 18th century British-born American poet and hymn writer. Prior to 1750, she wrote many hymns, with the largest of her known manuscripts collections, containing 90 of these. Charles-Pierre Collarteau, he was born in October 1732 and he died in October 1776. His age was 43 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a French poet. His most notable works are an imitation of Eloisa to Abelard by Alexander Pope and a translation of the first two sections of Night Thoughts by Edward Young. They witness to the pre-romantic sensibility of the 18th century, as also seen in the works of Rousseau, Diderot, and Provost. Jacob Amden, he was born in June 1697 and he died in April 1776. His age was 78 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a German rabbi who opposed heretical movements and worked to preserve Jewish orthodoxy. His scholarly writings remain influential in Jewish studies. He was acclaimed in all circles for his extensive knowledge. Leopold Woodham, he was born in October 1722 and he died in June 1776. His age was 53 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a German luthier celebrated for his finely crafted violins and other string instruments. His creations are prized for their exceptional sound quality. Edward Wortley Montagu, he was born in May 1713 and he died in April 1776. His age was 62 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British adventurer and writer whose travel accounts offered insights into Ottoman culture and society. His works expanded Western understanding of the East. Olivier de Visan, he was born in April 1707 and he died in April 1776. His age was 68 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a French engineer and cartographer who contributed to the detailed mapping of the French colonial territories. His work supported strategic and administrative planning. Jacques Salé, he was born in June 1717 and he died in May 1776. His age was 58 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a French-born sculptor who worked in France, Italy, and Malta. He is commonly associated with his time in Denmark. He served as director of the Royal Danish Academy of Art from 1754 to 1771. His most noteworthy work is the equestrian statue of Frederick V on horseback at Amalienborg. James Kent. He was born in March 1700 and he died in May 1776. His age was 76 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an English organist and composer. Kent was born in Winchester and was a chorister of Winchester Cathedral and the King's Chapel. He was appointed organist of Trinity College, Cambridge, where he worked until about 1737. Then he was organist in Winchester of both the cathedral and the college. He retired in 1774. Duchess Maria Anna Josepha of Bavaria. She was born in August 1734 and she died in May 1776. Her age was 41 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. She was a Duchess of Bavaria by birth and Margravine of Baden-Baden by marriage. She was nicknamed the Savior of Bavaria. She is also known as Maria Josepha and is sometimes styled as a Princess of Bavaria. Jeanne-Julie Eleonore de Lespinasse. She was born in November 1732 and she died in May 1776. Her age was 43 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was tuberculosis. She was a French salon holder and letter writer. She held a prominent salon in Paris during the Enlightenment. She is best known today, however, for her letters, first published in 1809, which offer compelling accounts of two tragic love affairs. Richard Fitzwilliam, 6th Viscount Fitzwilliam. He was born in July 1711 and he died in May 1776. His age was 64 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an Anglo-Irish peer, property developer, and patron of the arts. He is best remembered for founding the Fitzwilliam Museum at the University of Cambridge, housing his significant art and manuscript collections. Albert Frick. He was born in September 1714 and he died in May 1776. His age was 61 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a German theologian. He was appointed judge to the Faculty of Theology. In 1743, he became a minister at Zhangjiang. In 1751, he went to Munster as a preacher, and in 1768, he was named head librarian. Sinbirchen. He was born in September 1736 and he died in June 1776. His age was 39 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was the king of the Konbaum dynasty of Burma from 1763 to 1776, the second son of the dynasty founder, and is best known for his wars with Qing China and Siam, and is considered the most militaristic king of the dynasty. His successful defense against 4 Qing invasions preserved Burmese independence. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.